so we'll see for the first person to come into the room. And it's generally live by then. What's going on, guys? How are you? We are live. And I think I finally figured out a way to... I did. I figured it out. In fact, I can actually watch myself on another screen. It's kind of creepy. Anyways, so how are things? Wanted to just touch base with you all, and I got a request by popular demand. It's a question asked a lot. It's all about foam. And so I figured I'd come in here. Obviously, all questions for this Q&A, hopefully they're pertaining to that, and I'll try and answer all those relevant questions first. If you do a super chat donation, then I can I'll obviously give those priority. And I have this set up on the screen on my other channel so I can actually see the comments. How I had to do it before when I was trying to stream from my phone, as I tried to look at it on the computer, and it wouldn't let you do it. It would just let you watch yourself and wouldn't let you see the comments. But I can clearly see the comments here, so nobody should be skipped over, and I won't be touching my phone all weird. But this is all about the different types of foam. So it's been a while since I've done an update video. There's been a lot that's happened, so I have my notes up, and I wanted to go ahead and review those. So we'll start with, there's 4 types really that people have used. There's styrofoam, there's pink foam, there's pool noodles, there's pour foam. We're gonna be talking about all those things, and we're gonna be starting with like the pros and cons of all. First, we'll be starting with styrofoam, which is polystyrene sheeting. It is still used to this day in some boats. I know there's a lot of people that have been on there and been like, why are you using styrofoam? It's a thing of the past, nobody uses it anymore. And that is not true. There's a lot of people that actually still use it. Quite a few, actually. In fact, if you've got some trackers, what they've done now is they've figured out that like it molds. So they'll put the foam in plastic. So they'll like secure it in plastic bags. And that's how they kind of get around that. So, but you'll find it in there. It's just like loosely thrown in there, not very structurally sound, but it's in there. And not only that, but we obviously use it. I still use it. I'm using it right now, and we'll talk about why that is. Styrofoam can be found in pretty much all regions. Although, as you get into more dense climates, you're going to start finding the pink foam. We'll be talking about that next. But if you are, if there is polystyrene sheeting, which pink foam board is actually polystyrene sheeting too, we'll be talking about that. But the white stuff that comes in the little balls, still used today. It is close-celled. It's easy to cut and manipulate. If you get a little foam cutter or you have a hot knife, you get the little foam cutter. It looks like a little stick, like a little straw, and that just cuts right through the foam. That's good, and that's what we generally use. Otherwise, it kind of just makes a mess when you try and cut it with anything else. So it burns clean. It's non-invasive to boat hulls. That's important because there's some foam sources down here that'll actually cause corrosion over time. We'll talk about that too. But styrofoam, it can be in your boat for like 30 years. No corrosion from the styrofoam. It might not look great. It might be deteriorated. I've seen prolonged for boats like 30 years old. We've gut them and we checked in there. The foam seemed to have shrunk under serious high heat conditions where it was like whole in there and structurally sound, and then not so much. And so that might happen. It also, I don't know, there's some mixed evidence, but it does start to fall apart into the little ball granules over time. I think what a bigger accelerator of the ball granules falling apart is rats and mice. They'll get in there and they'll chew up the foam. That's probably its biggest problem. None of the other foam sources we talk about, rats don't like to touch them. But rats will go in there and eat styrofoam for days, and you'll see all the little foam balls going in there. They'll start flowing down your subfloor. They'll clog your bilge pumps. It's not real good when that starts to happen. But you'll definitely, that's a very big characteristic of older boats. You'll see that. So if you see like foam and all kinds of balls, it didn't just fall apart by chance. You'll likely find rat poop, and it'll be there. It'll all be there together. It's disgusting. Yeah. Also, gasoline will melt it. Not only gasoline, but if you're trying to use any sort of spray adhesive or anything with that, that fume-based, I don't know what the actual ingredient is, but definitely it'll start to melt the foam. So that's not real good because 9 times out of 10, gasoline at one point in time is going to run down the subfloor of your hull, which is why we strongly recommend when you're doing a subfloor no longer to make a full subfloor. Like, try and leave a middle channel. It'll save you. It'll do a lot. If you can't do that and you absolutely have to lay complete foam sheets on your boat, we recommend, or at least I recommend, metal tape. I recommend the aluminum tape and probably like the 3M stuff around the vent and duct section of Lowe's or Home Depot, because it's like thicker, and so it'll go around the 1.5 inch square a little bit better. And the stuff I use is Artex sheeting, and the Artex sheeting by itself is like, obviously it's shielded on the bottom to kind of have that radiant barrier sheeting, which may or may not be really important to whatever you're doing. But the bigger thing to me is like it's skin on both sides. It's skin with something. It's either the radiant barrier sheeting or it's plastic on the top, because right there is where the foam is kind of sealed off from the elements. Like, gas can get on the plastic. It's not going to melt the plastic, but the minute it goes off the plastic and touches the edges, it melts. So that's why we cover the edges with the aluminum tape. You could try duct tape, but I think over time the duct tape kind of just loses its deal and comes off. But when you fold that aluminum tape, it's folded. It stays like that forever. It doesn't matter about the adhesive, which is really good on that tape. It's good because it's expensive. So I would preserve both pink foam and styrofoam with that aluminum side tape. I absolutely would do it. And I will be getting to all the questions after I kind of get through my list, which is not very big, but I figured so we keep this a little organized versus the last Q&As where I was kind of spotting around. We're gonna go through this. And this list I will be putting in the description area also. Once this video is published, it'll be there so you guys can have my little quick list if you don't want to watch the video. So the gasoline, yeah, not a good thing. I think it makes napalm. At the very least, we've also heard about stories where people have mysteriously felt their floor start sinking, and it's because gas flew down. In older boats, that happens a lot. Other than that, it's good. As long as you can preserve it right, you get the higher quality stuff that's skinned on the top and bottom. You seal the sides off before you install it, and it should do well. It is close-celled. It will last you a while. It does work. Now let's move on to like the more popular equivalent, which is pink foam. Pink foam, I think, is probably the resident favorite. Everybody loves pink foam. It is just like styrofoam. It comes in sheets. It's easy to use. It's easy to cut, but it's a different cell structure. It says polystyrene sheeting right on there, right on the Pink Panther foam, but it's clearly not made the same way. There's no little ball granules, and it's obviously pink. It's mold resistant, which is great because if there's no mold, the rats don't like to chew it. That's a bigger thing. You never hear about like pink mold being chewed up by the rats. It's always the styrofoam. So the pink foam board is pretty much money. It's close-celled. It's mold resistant. Not a whole lot of things. It's close-celled, and not a whole lot of stuff is wrong with it. But the only thing really, gasoline will melt it. Gasoline will melt it. So you should get the stuff that's skinned on both sides and preserve your cutted ended round, your ends with aluminum tape. And I think that stuff is probably the best stuff. The thing that pink foam and styrofoam won't really provide you is a mechanical bond to the hull, which will stiffen the hull up, and you won't get that giant shudder with the waves. But what can you do? Sometimes it's your best option, and it's not. So the next one, I've been guilty of this. We've been guilty of this. I actually got this idea from other people on boat forums, somehow thinking this was a good idea, and now I publicly am condemning it forever. The pool noodles. They're not good. They are not good. Just not. And what I found between all four sources here, before we go too far in, is you don't save money going from one to the other. They all cost a lot of money. Whether you buy like 100 pool noodles at the dollar store for $1 a piece, or you spend $100 and get a 2-gallon kit of pour foam, or $100 on 5-6 sheets of styrofoam. It doesn't matter. Like, it's almost all cost the same. Very, very abysmal difference in actual like money saved versus spent at the end. But the end result is really important. So with the pool noodles, we found that they disintegrate in the direct sunlight. We all know that. If you leave your pool noodles in the pool, they start falling apart really quickly. But you couldn't tell if it's just because of the sun or the water. So what we found is after we've kept them underneath the subfloor, and we pulled up the subfloor later, is they're all slimy and smaller, so they're disintegrating with prolonged water actually sitting on them. So if you do have them in places and you absolutely have to use them, there's like no other no other alternative, which I think would be hard. There's alternatives out there. Like it would have to be in a place where there's no sun and no water could just sit and saturate them. So obviously not on their subfloor at all. And other than that, I mean, I guess they are a pretty good use of voided space, although they're already preformed and round and they're hollow in the middle. And so you'll have voids. No matter how much you stick in a place or you cram in there, you'll have voids. A lot more open voids than if you cut styrofoam perfectly and stuck in there in like a little panel area where you just specifically reserving for foam. There's points where they're okay, but I'd overall just avoid them. I mean, styrofoam is a better option than pool noodles. And styrofoam is everywhere. Don't use the pool noodles. And I have used them. I mean, I've even had a part where my boat had massive failures and I was fishing and the boat would just drift a really long time. Like I was like, man, why is it drifting so long? Like I had to troll for like 1 second, the boat would just drift. It's because it's full of water. You couldn't really tell, but so the foam does work. It just doesn't work for a long time. But I've made subfloors out of pool noodles. It's how long will it work? It won't. If you're gonna do all that work, the biggest lie you can tell yourself is that, all right, I'll just make this cheap deal right now to get it through, and then later on I'll fix it. You're lying to yourself. You tell yourself that, it's not good to tell yourself that. Even if you believe it at the time, you won't believe it later. Moving on to pour foam. Boat manufacturer's choice is pour foam. The professional choice is that. That's generally all they use, except for in some circumstances where you will lift up newer boats and you look at the bench seats and there is styrofoam. So, but that's way, way less used now than the pour foam. So pour foam is close cell. The densities, you'll see 2 pound density out there. You'll see 6 pound density. 2 pound density is the best, which means per volume. I forget how many cubic feet it is. It's only 2 pounds, I think, per cubic feet or something like that. But essentially like a 2 gallon kit, that's like 16, 18 pounds or something like that. You end up getting like 900 pounds of reserve buoyancy out of a 2 gallon kit. I think that's right. Don't quote me on that, but it's obscenely high. It's definitely in the high hundreds of pounds of extra buoyancy you get from like one kit. You put 2 kits in there, the boat's pretty hard to sink. You put 3 kits in there in a smaller boat, like make a don't sink vid and then post it on TikTok, it'll go viral. Like it's very dense, it's very rigid, it's very structurally sound. It does offer a mechanical bond once it's applied to the hull. So when you do go through waves, you'll definitely feel your boat like it's much more solid. To feel more like a glass boat versus a dingy aluminum hull. The only problem we have found with it is, other than like where there's no good drainage and it's there, it definitely does pick up foam. It is closed cell, has a super small water absorption, but when water just sits on there, it definitely does hold it. And I mean, all these are guilty of it, but I think pour foam is, once water gets in there, I swear that's it. It's not want to let it go. It's like a forever sponge. And so you'll pull out these packets and chunks of it way deep down in your boat. And it's heavy. It's very heavy. So if we're all about weight savings, pour foam put in areas where it's not well thought out definitely leads to pretty bad problems later on, where the subfloor doesn't drain well, or it was put in a pocket where it doesn't drain well, and there's no bleed off hoses, which we try to demonstrate all the bleed off hoses. And that causes long-term residual problems. But the other problem, the bigger problem, I think, well, equally as big, is that it corrodes the hull. It corrodes the boat hull. The boat hull. Boat hull. Doesn't sound good anyway, but it corrodes the hull. This is not very good. We found that over time, the more boats we gut, and it's always where the pour foam is. In fact, like because of this, I epoxy primered the inside of this other boat that I'm about to do. I haven't released the series to YouTube publicly yet, but I have. I'm going to, and I'll tell you why, and I have examples. But just take it from me right now. It does. So if you were going to put it in any part of your boat, inside, obviously it's going to go inside, paint that area with anything. Just make sure there's a barrier between the aluminum and the pour foam. And some people have even suggested putting the pour foam in plastic bags, which you would lose that mechanical bond to the hull, but at least theoretically it it wouldn't do it. I don't know. I think obviously painting the inside of the hull before you even pour or do any of that stuff is a way better option. That's really the only fault that it has, other than it holds onto water forever if water's on it long enough to saturate it, and it corrodes the hull. That's it. Oh, that's like the greatest stuff ever. So, all right, that's what I got. Also, really quickly, the last two things. The spray can foam, which I would use to close off and seal off sections before you pour the pour foam in. Oh, that's the other thing. If you pour the pour foam in and you didn't seal off all the places, and it leaks into places and starts expanding, it'll start to break stuff and warp stuff and cause you a whole lot of problems. And I actually have a video that I debated on not showing because it's so embarrassing. But I think I'm going to show it to you guys so you don't do it, because I've already done it. And that's all I'll tell you about it. It's kind of horrifying. But I mean, next week I'll probably drop it. And that's a big thing. So to avoid that, obviously duct tape works really good. And then the spraying foam. We recommend quad foam because it's closed-celled. I guess you could use great stuff. It's open-celled. It's clearly open-celled. It's clearly not that high quality. It's just meant to fill gaps. And what it does do, but it does fill gaps. And obviously it's just a little can. You're not going to sink your boat if that stuff gets saturated as a little can. But if you can get the quad foam, get the quad foam. It does do well. And all right, that's all I have for my list. I will be copying and pasting this list. And so let's see what we got here for the comments. Not too terribly long. Should be able to answer them. What's going on, Simon? How are you? I wonder if these people are still here. And what's going on, Gem7107, Alan Fry, Jared Bassing. Can I do a video on how to install a transducer on the Minn Kota Ultrax? I can. In fact, I actually have to do that myself. I have to get the Y cable that connects the 360 and the Mega DI transducer. And I've been slacking on that. You got to do that, yeah, pretty soon. All right, so We're All Lost says, I have been looking, man, I should have just been doing this the whole time. I should have just had a computer screen and my phone. I can see everybody. I feel like I'm skipping over. I'm not putting my, you remember I was doing all this all the time? That was terrible. That was terrible. Right, anyways, We're All Lost. I have been looking for a boat for so long now. Oh. Well, I hope you find one. Apparently the boat market is crazy right now and people are actually making money off boats now, which is almost impossible in the market. Did you know that? A friend of mine, Richard, pointed me out because we just went and fished last night, said, if you really bought a boat, you were never going to make your money back on it, no matter what you did to it. And so it pretty much was really a luxury item. You couldn't, really hard to flip them unless you found them cheap. You found a used boat and then you tried to flip that, then you pause theory. But now you could, apparently there's a huge market for boats. Giant boat shortage, whatever. So if you get a boat, hold on to it. And use it. Because I don't really know with whatever everything is going on right now what the material situation is going to look like. All right. Yes, Alan, I am happy with that skimmer. It works really well. But I have a modified system for that boat, for that pool on my other channel that I'm watching the stream on, and you'd have to watch the whole series there. Okay, Justin Korn, Ohio, what's going on? Hi from Ohio. Simon Fairford. Okay, how do you say that last name? I don't know. But Simon, how are you? Is there a guy that could build a tiny boat for you in Canada? There is. I don't know his name offhand, but we do have a contact down there of somebody who does those things. And hats off to him, and in Canada, I think it's a lot harder than it is here in the U.S. What's going on, Crappy Express? How are you? You catch those big Texas bass? Everybody's moving to Texas now. All the fish bloggers are moving there and making trips there. I need to go there. See these people walking away with 30-pound bags, like average fishermen, 30-pound bass bags, like a bag of your life. Okay, so for T, any thoughts on where to source foam to make a DIY captain boat collar? I'll be honest, I don't know what a captain boat collar is. I don't even want to I don't want to mislead you. I have no idea. Can Can somebody help T out and answering what that is? What is a boat collar? All right. Richard Clare, you've had many boats, 43 years old. Any boat with foam below the waterline will become waterlogged. Unless you add drain tubes. And then it won't. Which is, we try to put huge emphasis on our channel to get the cheap little hose line in the plumbing section from Lowe's and just run it in the tube. Or you know what works even better? Is that crinkle hose. Like, you know, the bilge hose? That stuff works great for drain holes. Because it's not so like rigid and inflexible like the clear plastic tubing, which sometimes kinks. All right. Okay. Yes. Also, Richard Clare has a good point. The Coast Guard does have levels for foam in a boat, and so if you're going to be manipulating your boat, make sure it's safe. So don't be putting less foam in the boat after you make mods. I've seen some people where they're totally okay with gutting all the foam away from the boat and just making them excess storage. It's super easy to do that. What it does take is serious discipline to not do that. To figure out and design a way to where you can have just as much, if not more, because you likely will need more now. And keeping that while still meeting all your needs for whatever kit you're going to install in your boat. And so I've tried to always, in my recent builds, knowing, you know, what Richard Clare has talked about being true, is that. Now, I've come at odds with some people, I've come at odds with some bigger people that are like totally okay with gutting boats. And there actually is sometimes boats, like you look at Prodigy boats, they have no foam in them because they're classified by the Coast Guard. Coast Guard wouldn't classify them as some kind of hull that you don't need foam in. Like for super shallow, like flats boats, like shallow water, they're classified as shallow water boats. So they're really meant for swamp areas with like no water. You ever seen those like swamp boats with seriously thick hulls? Crawling through rocks in a minuscule stream with mud motors, like 3 mud motors in the back. You ever seen that? Like they make those boats, so that's why there's no foam and they don't need foam. The boat sinks, it's gonna sink in like a foot of water, you pull it out. So like they got away with that. But if the boat's not like that, then you shouldn't be gutting. If the boat came with foam, you gotta think about that. All right. And Nicholas Chan, what thickness of wood would I recommend for a deck? I would recommend 1/2 inch, 5/8 the max. I think 3/4 is too much. I don't care how much you weigh. Like 1/2 inch is pretty good stuff. And I think 3/4 is too heavy for a boat. All is up outdoors. How are you? All right, man. Good to hear it. Good to hear it. You see this. Gray stuff's not UV rated. People put that stuff outside all the time. It does change color pretty quickly now that you mention it. What's going on, Wild Bill? How are you? Why won't sheet foam work if I glue it together and cut blocks into fit? It will work. It will work. You just Wild Bill lives in Arizona, I think, like I do, and he faces similar problems. Like if it starts to mold, it's like subject. Really, I swear, like the rats smell it, and they go right in there and they chew it up, and on top of that, it just stinks, and then it starts having problems. Okay, let me see. We filter through some of these things here. Only 11 likes. Yeah. Oh yeah. If you want, please hit the like button. It'll help the live stream trend. And I think once it's published, it'll help it trend. I'm not sure. I just started doing a little bit more lives and really you need to get the hold of it. I have like a real noob setup here for like live streams. Some people like really take these seriously and have like green screens and cool stuff. And I'm just here on a cell phone. But I did promise more live streams if I got a studio. So here we are. Over $5,000 for a 30-year-old hull in South Florida. Isn't Florida full of boats? $5,000, huh? How much foam did it take to do an 18-foot tracker? You know, that Tracker V18 already had foam in it. I didn't actually touch or add any foam in it because the kit I put in the boat was not heavier than what it came out of it. In fact, it's probably lighter. although the lightness factor was kind of abysmal because it was such a big boat. It had pour foam all the way in sections, and it actually had panels welded over the foam. It's pretty well built hull. I didn't add any to it, but it was pour foam for sure. How much foam did it take to do? Oh, sorry, Alan Guile, how are you? Appreciate it. Wondering if a large rooster tail coming off the transducer. No, mine does that too, and that will affect your top speed. But really, there's no other way. I mean, how glass boats get away with the transducer rooster tail is they stick it inside the hull, but you can't do that with an aluminum hull. You just got to put up with a rooster tail, and it's nothing you can do about it. I mean, to face it up means that once you get off plane, it's not going to be in a situation where it gives you a proper rating. So you just have to deal with the rooster tail, and that sucks. But what can you do? All the new transducers, except for maybe like the Garmin EchoMap transducers, maybe the smallest, most effective transducers versus the big, giant, long, shaft-looking thing that Lowrance makes. But okay, get back on topic here. What's a good group battery for a 12-volt Minn Kota 55? I'd get a group 29 for that thing, man. You run all day. You run all day on a group 29 Walmart battery. Okay. Let me see here. Jack Lololo. Joined a little late. What were I saying about pour foam absorbing water? It absorbs water if water just sits on it, or if it's in a section where. And a big way to avoid that really is just to store your boat right. Like when it's parked, jack it all the way up so it's slanted, and the water will naturally, whether it gets rained on or whether you just got off the water and you forgot to pull your drain plug, it will get out. That's the best way to avoid that problem long time. And a lot of people simply just don't do that. Majority of people don't store their boat right. All right. Oh, the captain collar is a boat outrigger attached to the water line of the hull. You're talking about those foam collars that those people out of like Australia make? Yeah, those are rad. Impossible to get a hold of those people. Like they're probably like a super local company, I think. But I think everybody has probably seen those dinghies out there or those tinnies with like the boat collars, and I don't know how you would get them. I would love to work with those people, but they're on the other side of the world. So, what do you think about Sika Post Mix? I don't know what that is. I'll have to look it up, Eduardo. Thank you though. Okay. How's the Gator Glide holding up? I mean, it's holding up great. I haven't used the boat yet, so I don't know. Apparently, there's a shelf life to it of like up to a year, and I had it for way over that. So the shelf life on that stuff will deteriorate, but the thing is, you can always put more on, and so it's like an ever-going process once you apply the initial like primer mold. Can you use aluminum ladders for framing a boat? Yeah, I guess. I've seen people do it. I never thought it was the greatest idea. But some people, I think, just did it just to do it. So, yeah, I mean, you could do it. I would try to not waste a perfectly good ladder to do it, though. I mean, the aluminum ladders are expensive. And I don't really know if you're gaining a whole lot by using it. Okay. Jared Walmer, what's going on, man? How are you? Do I think most newer, bigger, riveted boats would leak much over time? No. Because the technology and everything used now to put them together is better. They actually use precise drill bits now versus just a standard 3/16. They found that the exact size of the rivet, like there's always a little bit off. It's made a 3/16 buck rivet, but it's a little bit off. And so if you use the exact drill bit, which is some weird odd size you only can find if you're really looking for that professional drill bit. I mean, they found a way to do that now. So the rivets, they found out once the hole is absolutely perfect, like pressure tight, and then they buck it, it doesn't leak for pretty much ever. So you ever seen those boats, those old lines or those old Lumacrafts that just seem, they're like, man, this thing's 4 years old, no leaks. It's because they've done it right. If you got a hole that leaks, that's riveted is likely because it's a very thin hull that's shuttered over time, or it just was not correctly assembled. All right. All right, guys. I think we're caught up with comments. Sweet. All right. So I hope this answered all your questions. We got this done in 30 minutes. Probably the most efficient live stream ever. And so I'll put all my notes in the description area of this video once it starts to process. And I did not put a swamp cooler in my garage yet. Swamp cooler is useless out here, Rob. It's not going to work. It's too hot. It's too hot. And it gets too humid during the summer. The swamp cooler is... Maybe I'll try it. But to my knowledge, it doesn't work. The swamp cooler doesn't work in humidity, right? Right? Consensus, everybody? Does the swamp cooler work? All right. Okay, some last minute comments rolled in here. Let's check these out real quick. Wayne Miller, how are you? Picked up a 1448 low about a week ago. I appreciate. Okay, thank you. Yeah, the wiring. I'm gonna put out another wiring video here pretty soon. Trans and float pods and beaver tails. I would check out Out Jon Boats. He knows all about beaver pods and all that stuff. Apparently, it's a good idea, but I'm not really versed enough in mud boats to give you a good opinion. But we do have affiliates, Out Jon Boats, and he's been here in our live streams answering questions about those things. Check him out. Out Jon Boats. Should all check him out after you get out this live stream, or now, whatever. But he's there. Think about permanent vinyl wrapping your boat. Permanent vinyl wrapping? Vinyl's not permanent. You're talking about like a paint job? I'm gonna do that to my boat. In fact, I had traded my truck to get my wife a car. So then I got her truck, which was nicer than my truck. You know how you always like, the wife gets like the nicer car, so I get the downgrade. But my downgrade was a nicer truck than what I had because I traded my other truck. But it doesn't match my boat now, so I'm thinking about possibly looking into how much wrapping costs. So I maybe get the whole thing wrapped. We'll see. We'll see. What's going on, Chris? How are you? How are you? Who's calling me? Oh, Adam call. All right. What's going on, Chris? Yeah, right. Your shop was 64 this morning. Where do you live? It was not 64 degrees today. Okay, what's going on, Donald? How are you? Replacing old foam inside the bench seats? A sawzall with a dull blade and a framing hammer, and just crisscross that and then chop it out. We have videos on demolition of foam, which is fun. All right. Oh, no rain. They work great. Okay, I'll look into it. I'll look into the swamp cooler because a little dingy little air conditioned AC doesn't work. It's terrible. We'll look into it. Okay, vinyl adhesive, no heat needed. Oh, so it really is permanent vinyl. I don't really know if I would use vinyl as a permanent anything, unless it's like super thick vinyl that you're trying to wrap around something like, say, like the deck vinyl they use on boats. Otherwise, I wouldn't use it. I actually have never seen it before. So, I mean, the vinyl that I use doesn't have adhesive backing on it at all. Cod Fishing 180. What's going on? Australia Murray cod fishing. Sweet. Probably have access to boat callers there. Haha. All right. Well, hopefully the boats roll in the next 4 months and there's not a boat shortage for the rest of our lives. We'll see. We'll see. Oh, you're in Tucson? Tucson is nothing, man. Tucson doesn't get hot down there. What do you get? Like 110 is your hottest day? That is nothing. Try 125 for like months. That's hot. That's hot. Anything over 110 is hot. All right. Okay. Let me see here. How long does a foam floor stay in the hot weather? We'll find out. So far it's been holding up. So far it's okay. I mean, I don't have any complaints. Oh, the floor like sea deck? As long as you don't leave it in the sun, it lasts a long time. I think But I mean, it is foam, so if you leave it out in the Arizona sun, it'll be done for in a season. So from RB Wetline, do you recommend side rod lockers over center rod lockers? Yes, for a 14-foot boat, absolutely, because you can run them longer. You know, a center rod locker is even tough in a 16-foot boat, or even a 17 or 18-foot boat. I stuck a center rod locker. The only center rod locker I've ever done was in an 18-foot bass tracker tournament B18, and that one, even to me in an 18-foot boat that big, felt small. Like it fit everything, but I think for a center rod locker to be really effective for all rod sizes, 8 foot and above, for like mega rods, you need a big boat, like 19 feet, because you got to think about area for the cockpit, for the driving area, and your middle rod locker running into that. So if you, in a 14-foot boat, you try to add a center locker, it's going to eat up your cockpit space for you to just even be able to fit like a 7-foot rod. But if you put them on the side, you can run 7, 8, 9, 10-foot rods all day, because you'll be able to run the butts way back on the side of the cockpit. It's all about like the leverage. All right, I lost my place. It was 104. All right, that was pretty hot. You see, it is May. It is almost June. So it's June, and then July, it gets unbearable here, guys. Don't come to Lake Havasu in July. It's miserable. In August, it's terrible. And even in September, like October is when it starts to maybe start to get okay. Christoph, what's going on, man? How are you? Okay. You're in Minnesota and 90's hot? I think you have a humidity though. 90 degrees with humidity is different. We don't have humidity down here like everybody else does. And so 90 degrees to us is like fun. Like we all go and party. 90 degrees. What gauge wire would I run for my cranking battery if I were to move 10 feet away from the motor? Oh man. Probably like at least 6 gauge minimum. Maybe think about 4 gauge. How big's the motor? I mean, how big is the battery? If you want to just do one and done and you want an experimentation, you could try 4 gauge. 4 gauge is really thick, but you would have no problems, I think, making that big of a lead. 10 feet's a pretty big span for something that's cranking that many amps. So you can try 4 gauge. It'll be expensive. That's like $150 worth of wire, probably $200. It's like $100 per strand. Ugh. All right. All right. Joseph Stewart, how do I feel about the Lowrance Elite TI2? I'm a huge Lowrance fan. I have not used any of their new stuff though because they fell behind. And so there was it was weird. Like Lowrance's technology was ancient for a long time, but everybody thought they were so badass because like how nice and user friendly their stuff was. And then it seemed like Garmin just came in and passed everybody. And then Garmin started offering like super cheap UHD echo map graphs, like half the cost of what it was for like a Helix or an Elite. And so everybody's buying up all these echo map graphs and then end up getting their Panoptics, their live scope, and then man, all Garmin has to do is make some sort of 360 imaging, and that's it for everybody else. Like once you're the incumbent, it's really hard to pass you up. Everybody's trying to catch up to your new technology. So we'll see. We'll see if Lowrance can pull it themselves out of it. I know they got their active site, right? Live target. So now there's a reason to use Lowrance. They got the active target. But I think what'll be the really big key is Hummingbird's serious attention to detail and quality is still unmatched. Like their mega imaging is really it's something else. It still is unmatched by anybody else. And I mean, I have a Mega 360 and I have a Helix, and just the sheer quality of the graphs. So if Humminbird can bring something really new to the table with their Mega Live imaging, and then with their Mega 360, that will be it. And I think when they put out the new Ultra X, a brushless Ultra X, that's it. Because I think that Humminbird is still the way to go overall. If you had to choose one company, One company, Humminbird takes it. All right. Calhoun? All right. Luke Wolfgang, better 16-foot jet build? Ooh, anybody want to answer that? What makes a better jet boat? Like, why are you making a jet boat? To skim across rivers? Because then I think a shallow V, right? You want. That's why people use the flat bottom Jon boats on. If you just want to have a jet boat just to have a jet boat and it's out in a big lake, then a deep V is definitely the way to go. All right. Okay, I think we're boiling down here. And I think we're running out to the end of chat, so I'll answer this last little thing by Richard. What is the wet weight or total weight of one of my builds? Anywhere from 100 to 150 pounds, depending on what all went in it. I think. You're talking about just like with no gear? With all raw materials inside the boat and no extra add-ons. Well, obviously the trolling motor stuff, like we're right under capacity. I try and match it out to where it's going to be under capacity with 2 people in gear and a live well in the kit. So whatever capacity the boat is. But that being said, like the stuff we do now, that 14-foot boat needs to be pretty stacked, which is why we want that Alumacraft. I did that for that guy because that boat is so epic. That's one of the reasons. All right, guys, thank you much. I will catch you guys later. And it was fun talking to you. It was way better this time because I have an extra screen to see all the stuff. And all right. Calhoun, my boat's a 16-foot smoker craft. I don't have any jet builds though. But you check out JDS Outdoors or send it Jon Boats. Those guys have jet boats, and they're both my affiliates. So check them out. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you later. For sure, this time I'm ending it. I will. If you have comments, though, please comment in the video, and it will process. This live will end, and then it will process to a video that people can watch. If you post your question there, we will answer it. Thank you much, everybody. I'll talk to you later.